Greetings, and welcome to the Power of Vintage. Here you see three items rather, that look fairly similar to each other. On the left-hand side over here, we have my beloved Atari Mega ST4, along with the Atari SC1224 color monitor. Great combination, awesome products. On the right-hand side, we have something that's a little more rare, a little more unknown, a little more difficult to find information about. This is the Atari PS3000 monitor floppy drive combo package. Today we're going to talk about this monitor, dig into it, tear it down a little bit, and talk about what might be arguably the rarest Atari production monitor. All right, let's get to it. All right, here we have the Atari PS3000 monitor and floppy drive. It was launched in 1985, as far as I can tell, based upon the documentation I've been able to find. According to internet rumor, there were only about 1,000 of these ever sold into the marketplace. These had a really nice monitor. We'll kind of walk through the details on the innards as we go through it, as well as a single-sided floppy drive here. I picked mine up about 2.5 years ago in a big haul of Atari ST hardware, software, floppy disks, a whole slew of stuff from a gentleman a couple hours away from where I live. And as you can see on the screen here, there's a lot of awesome stuff that was there. But what was notably missing was the floppy drive. The floppy drive had failed, the previous owner had removed it, and I ended up with a grocery bag of floppy drive parts. Unfortunately, and we'll see more about this later, the most important parts of that floppy drive were missing. That would be the ribbon cable that attached to the PCB inside, as well as the power supply cable. Now, able to make those work and figured that out, and that was an awesome project about 2.5 years ago. And I'll go through some of the details of the output of that. But before we move on and start tearing this guy down and doing the tour around it, we got to get past the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is an elephant of a power supply. As you can see over here, this chunky power supply is the biggest external power supply truly that I've ever seen. Bigger than even the G4 Cube power supply. Now, the funny thing about this is this only delivers plus 12 volts DC, plus 5 volts DC, and then 120 volts AC. Basically a pass-through directly into the monitor. So why does it need to be so big? I don't know. You know what? I would love to hear from someone who knows more about electronics and power supplies as to why this chunky monkey has to be so chunky. Because if we're just doing a pass-through, I'm not sure what has to happen with a pass-through, but looking at just a floppy disk drive power supply for an equivalent power supply for the SF354 floppy disk drive, that's the size. This is about double the size, triple, 4 times the size of a floppy disk power supply, and then double the size of an Atari 520 ST power supply. Huge chunky monkey. But the coolest about this guy, it's been recapped, it works, and it's awesome. Especially this lovely wonky power connector. That is really weird, isn't it? All right. So let's dig into the monitor and kind of give a tour. you have a glorious screen here. 14-inch screen, 12-inch screen, excuse me, not 14-inch. I wish it was 14. 12-inch screen. The same screen size as the SE1224. You have, originally, it was a single-sided 360K floppy disk drive. I have since replaced that, or I didn't have one in there originally, so I replaced it initially with a Gotek and a 3D printed bracket. And I decided, you know what? I like putting this is such a collectible thing. I wanted to put it back into as close to an original state as possible. So what I have in here now is a 720K double-sided floppy disk drive of the glorious big button style that you see here. All right, so let's rotate it around the side. On the left side, you have what appears to be nothing, but you have a secret compartment. You see this little sign says, the sticker says push. Now, if you push there, nothing happens. But if you push here, you have the secret compartment with your volume, contrast, and brightness controls. These lovely little knobbies here that you can adjust. All right. On the back of this glorious little guy, let's zoom in. Actually, yeah, zoom in a little more. You have your various different adjusters. Behold, V right, V height, V pause, H pause, H hold. Lovely. The glorious power connector, floppy disk drive port, and standard Atari ST video port. All right, simple, straightforward. All right, so let us move to the other side. And the right-hand side. All right, on this right-hand side, you have not much except the power switch. Flip, flip. There you go. Now, we're going to flip this guy over and look at the bottom, because there's some interesting things in the bottom of this guy. Ooh, this guy's huge. Not as huge as he could be, but he is huge. And as you can see, one of the lovely little features here is an adjustable tilt mechanism. So if you want to raise the height of the front of the monitor, which actually is kind of needed, because if you were to put an Atari ST in front of it really close by, you couldn't get a disk out, floppy disk out. So being able to tilt this upward got the floppy disk opening in an angle that you can actually reach and connect with. All right. And then lastly, we're going to take a look at the top. Put this guy back down. All right. And on the top, see these two little guys here? These are little covers that cover up some of the screws that we're going to have to pop open in order to crack this guy open. All right. So before we do that, I'm going to get the table set up. My desktop, desk table, whatever you want to call it. Put down a nice little towel here to protect the monitor, the screen, as much as I possibly can. And we'll start taking it apart. All right. Let's get going. We'll start up on this side. And as you can see here, we have the lovely secret passageways. We'll pop these guys open. Pull these little covers out. Boom. To reveal screws. So we can take it apart. We'll set this off to the side. Pop the next one out. There we go. Lovely. All right. Here we go. Grab my lovely little magnet. This is one of my favorite tools here. Got for my boys for Christmas. Now, let's keep going. All right, top screw 1. Top screw 2. a little bit more. All right, I don't know how the folks like Jan Beta, Adrian Black do these things on a regular basis. This is not easy, taking these apart behind a camera. But we will now move this lovely monitor, rotate you around to the next side. All right, the next thing you have to do, and this is a bit of a secret, you got to pop these controllers out. So I did a lot of work on this, like I said, about 2.5 years ago. And this was a bit of a learning experience for me. Figuring out where all the screws were, how to open the stinking thing up, and then which screws went back where when it was finally time to put the thing back together. All right, we got everything out of this one. What we have now is we have a couple screws here. There are a lot of screws on this guy, just so you know. All right, got that guy. The other funny thing is, the previous owner who took it apart, I as he put it back together, at least as I was looking at the screws, unless Atari did this at the OEM site, maybe they did, but there are a lot of different screws. They fit, but they weren't necessarily match sets, if that makes sense. All right, here we go. We got more screws. We'll get these two here. Probably didn't have to rotate it quite like that, but hey, it's all good. All right. Another one. This monitor, actually, the color is excellent on it, and the image is really, really cool. Really do enjoy this guy. All right, now last ones are these guys right here. All right, let's see if I got them all. I think I did. Yep, here we go. Popping this guy off. Now, inside, nothing spectacular in that shell. But what you can see is a lovely ribbon cable that has been butchered by me in order to fit this board. And we'll dig into a little bit more of that in just a moment. Also, down here, you see these are the mounting screws for the floppy disk drive. One of the things that was, I call it an Easter egg, and we'll see some more evidence of that Easter egg later on as we look at the circuit board. There's a mirroring pair, actually, pair up here and pair down here that matches those for the floppy drive on this side. Now, I don't know, on the circuit board, and we'll see this in a little bit, there's a nice little printing on that circuit board that says FD1 and another one on the other side saying FD2. So my little hypothesis is that this wasn't necessarily just meant to be a single floppy drive monitor combo package, but actually a dual with the potential to have both. All right, so let's see about taking off, the PCB up here. So that's this connector up top. Let's see if we can adjust this a little bit. There are so many wires in this puppy. And I just want to make sure that nothing gets all messed up. We got this guy here, because I got this stinking thing working. And I am delighted that it's working. All right, green there. This guy here. There we go. On the right-hand side, this is the lovely bird connector that I created for the floppy drive. We have a few more cords right here. Let's see. A little ribbon cable here. Pop you off. And then we are going to disconnect this guy in general. I am not going to remove the floppy drive. Not right now, because it's a bit of a pain to do that. All right, let's organize these screws in a way that I can figure out what to do with them when I'm done. Can't even see me doing that. There we go. Removing screws. Put you down here. And then this should just slide off. Ooh boy. Now let's see, where are we binding? We're binding with this power cord here. And then obviously the floppy connectors. All right, I am not going to take this apart too much more because you know what? I want my soldering job to stay sane. All right. As you can see, FDD1. What would that mean? I would suggest that means floppy disk drive 1. Or maybe funky display doohickey 1? I don't know. Floppy disk drive 1. But even cooler, and this is what I was mentioning earlier, over here are a set of pads saying FDD2. Cool, isn't it? I thought that was cool. And you know, if you think I've already pinned the whole thing out, but if you think that I should possibly try to wire up a second floppy disk drive, I am not modifying this case here. I am not going to destructively do anything to this puppy. I love this guy. But just as a yucks kind of a thing, go just for the sake of it to see if I can get it to work. If you think I should try that, put it in the comments below, and I'll see if I can maybe make another video out of that. It's not an easy thing to do, but it might be a fun video to make. All right, let's get this thing put back together. All right, zoom back out. Boom, boom, boom. All right. And we are going to put this carefully back together. Because like I said, that soldering job, I'm very proud of it. And I don't want it to be damaged. And it works, which is so super cool. All right, here we are. Okay, it's hard enough working on these things from not behind a camera. Adding the camera to the mix makes it even more entertaining. Aha, that's where we go. Maybe? Maybe? No? You sure? Oh, something's binding it up. Oh, is it you? Are you the one binding it up? Now, we'll plug you guys all in. Well, I can still see you easily. There we go. One connector. Two connectors. Three connectors. Last connector. And this is what took the longest time, is actually getting those pads pinned out. And I'll share an image of what I had done. So I couldn't find any documentation on that. So I went through the whole fun process of pinning out the floppy drive port, which is this guy here, to each one of those pads to make sure I could find out which ones match. Because there's great documentation highlighting the floppy pin ports to the ribbon cable within an Atari ST. So I have that. So I could then go from there to the pads to the floppy put cable. And you know, the funny thing is you would think that the naming convention would make sense. But as you can see with this image on the screen, I'm going to put this image here. It is not simple. And it is not straightforward. You'd think one would go with one, maybe. Two would go with two, three would go with three. No. They're all different pins. They're all different ways in which it goes together. So that is that. I am not finding what's binding this guy in. Because it's clear. Oh, there we go. I got, you're supposed to go on top. There we are. Perfect. I did take lots of pictures of this guy. Lots of pictures. And like I said, I also posted some of them. The pinout I actually posted online, first in a Facebook post, simply saying, woohoo, I got this working. Yay! Pat me on the back. I then decided, you know what, I can't find any documentation anywhere. So I'm going to post it on every forum that I can think of. So I posted it on the, I think, Atari forum, Atari-forum, as well as Exos's forum. Maybe Atari Mania, not Atari Mania. Maybe Atari Age. I don't remember. I posted it everywhere I could. The cool thing was, is I was doing some, just some Google searching to see if there's any more information that's out online that I could find this. There really is hardly anything. But I found that my documentation with the pinouts, as you saw there, with the weird Atari pinout, as posted into archive.net, which is so cool. It makes me feel like I'm like super cool. I'm internet famous. Kind of, not really, but close enough. With on an obscure Atari monitor. Ah, lovely. Well, let's get this guy buttoned up. Oh, there we go. Beautiful. Gorgeous. All right, let's get this puppy running. All right, great. We are back now. Now we have a computer to pair this monitor with. That is age appropriate, since this was one of the earliest monitors available. Arguably, maybe the first, maybe not. But this is a 520 ST. There you go. Right there. That guy right there. Beautiful computer. And it is a different one than the one that I had before. This one is a really old one. Probably part of the first batch. Number one, it has no RF modulator in there. This is a pure STF. ST, not STF. Additionally, you can take a look at the bottom on the serial number 6/1985. This is an early one, really early, since the product actually launched in 6/1985. Was it the first? No, but it was an early one. Additionally, this is a sticker that came with it that fell off. It is compatible and has been certified. Prior to that, if you actually look at the label on the bottom, the details on it, it says this equipment has not been tested to show compliance with FCC rules, which is kind of fun. And then they just slap this puppy on later. Kind of cool. All right, so let's connect this guy up. There's a lot of things we need to do. Well, not a lot, but let's start by removing this towel underneath this guy. All right. Okay. Because it does. The screen doesn't need to be protected anymore. Now, we have a couple cords. We have, let's get that to focus in nicely. This is the Atari monitor port and the Atari floppy port connectors. All right, because we're going to have to connect the Atari to this monitor first and foremost. All right, how we want to do this. This table desktop is not the most roomy. And this guy goes like this. The videos goes like that on the back side there. And the floppy connector, both of them actually go what I would say is upside down compared to the Atari ST. Perfect. All right, we also want to get the power cord on this guy. This guy here. So we'll put him over here. I use these rubber bands to keep the cords from getting all yanked around too much. And I don't want them to get bound up when they are being stored inside. All right. Lovely plug into lovely port. Perfect. All right. Now we need to connect those cords to the Atari ST. Floppy drive goes over here. Let's get this in camera view. There we go. Floppy drive. You can see the back side of this computer. Monitor port. Perfect. All right. We also need, we're going to pull up my handy dandy homemade Meanwell Atari 520 ST power supply. We'll put him over here. Since the port's on this side. Lots of cables, lots of fun stuff. Although surprisingly, this actually reduces the number of cables. Not cables, but makes a little bit of a cleaner desktop than what you would have had if you had a separate floppy drive and monitor. All right. So let's get these guys going together. Over here. Perfect. Now, not ideal. What could be done, and what I could do, is just flip that out. We got to raise it up a little bit. As you can see, now the floppy disk does not conflict with the computer. Honestly, I think this is a bit of a janky design. It is cool. I love it. It's fun. But I really think this is a bit of a janky design. And perhaps that's why this thing didn't last very long. And to be honest, as I mentioned, I have looked all over the place for more documentation on this guy, for any advertisements, even from like Atari in various different magazines. I couldn't find a peep. Couldn't find anything. Let's grab a mouse. Here we go. Because I do have a mouse. I do have mice. Yes, I do. I have plenty of mice. All right, let's plug in the power supply for the computer. The power supply for the monitor. The monitor. And now, the Atari ST, we are plugged in. Now, I need to grab something. Be right back. I am back. And what I needed is I needed a disk to test this out on. We have our 520 ST. We have our monitor with a double-sided floppy disk drive. We have the power supplies. We even have a mouse. We are ready to say launch. This right here is a hacked copy of my favorite game, Ultima 4, Quest of the Avatar. See my other video if you'd like to see something about Ultima 4 specifically. This is a hacked version that has disks A and B on a double-sided floppy drive rather than having to swap back and forth between two single-sided floppy disks. All right, pop it in. And we will power on the power supply for the 520 ST. Let's zoom on in. Flip on that monitor and hear the whine. Woo! There we go. And say, go. Oh, hear that floppy disk drive sound. Here, let's take off the mic and so you can hear it. Here it comes. And we have Ultima 4. That's loud. I was just adjusting the volume by going into this top secret panel. Lovely game. All right. This is the Atari PS3000 monitor. Beautiful monitor, awesome computer, super rare, super fun. If you have one of these and you want some help working on the insides of it, let me know. I've got my contact information for the channel down below. Be happy to answer questions, provide some insights, give you at least my experience of working on this guy, because there aren't many of these out there. There's a great gentleman on the Atari ST Facebook page, STSTE Facebook page, who reached out and asked me, "Hey, where did you find this one?" He was cataloging how many of these that he found, and again, he's trying to figure out, I think, how many exist in the world today. And at that point, that he was thinking there's about 1,000 or so. Fantastic. Atari's rarest, quotable, debatable monitor ever made. Have an awesome day. Like, subscribe, come back, give comments. If you know of an even rare Atari monitor, put it in the chat below. Appreciate it for watching. Thanks for watching. Bye.